This is Polyamory Weekly, tales from the front of responsible non-monogamy from a pansexual, kink-friendly point of view. A warning for our under-18 listeners. This is an adult-oriented podcast about really lascivious things, like communication and honesty in relationships. If you're under 18 and looking for upfront advice and answers to questions about sex, please visit scarletteen.com.
This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 506 for February 23rd, 2017. Coming up on today's show, what if I love him more than he loves me? That's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Minx, here to talk to you about what else but the trials and tribulations of being polyamorous in today's modern world. Going solo today for you lusty guy lovers. He'll be coming back in a few episodes. We have a new co-host coming in next week that I'm very excited about. Going to keep it as a little bit of a surprise, but stay tuned for more exciting co-hosting moments. And we do have a listener-driven topic today, but first, a couple of announcements. Our next event will be in Idaho. And you know what? This is RelateCon, March 31st to April 2nd in Boise, Idaho. And you know what? I have never been to Idaho before. I just realized that all I know about Idaho is potatoes. So everything there is just going to be brand new to me. It's going to be a world of Idahonianness. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. It's always fun to go to a new conference, and, it's just always fun. We always have a fantastic time. We always learn so much and meet so many awesome people. So looking forward to that. And just in case you missed it, the last, 3 times we mentioned it, Lusty Guy and I have our very first co-written e-book together. No Dick Pics, Your Guide to Creating an Irresistible Online Dating Profile is out. It's been selling very well. Yay! We always love that. And it was really fun to write. And this was based on one of our most popular classes. This is what we do, right? We teach classes when they are popular, when we get a lot of feedback, when people start getting upset that we can't teach the class in their state where they can actually take the class. That's when we either write an ebook or we make it into an online course so that it's just a little easier for you folks who maybe don't always have the time or the money to go to a conference and come and actually take our classes live. But that being said, if you can come to a conference like RelateCon or like Poly Dallas Millennium in July, we really encourage you to do that too. It just costs a little bit more than the $4.99 for the ebook. This week, I am so proud to say that in the Poly in the News segment, we have what I think is probably the best Poly in the News article ever. Now, this is from the Poly in the News blog, and apparently there is a philosopher named Carrie Jenkins. She is, I love that Alan in the Poly in the News blog describes her as kind of a big thing at the University of British Columbia. She is out poly, she's got 2 male partners, and she just published a book called What Love Is and What It Could Be. And she originally published an article called How a Hackneyed Romantic Ideal is Used to Stigmatize Polyamory in a magazine that Alan describes as Thinky. It's called Aeon. And it was then picked up by a news magazine called The Week, which retitled it Monogamy is Out, Polyamory is In. And some of the excerpts, I'm screaming, yes, 1,000 times, yes. So I'll read you a couple of excerpts from the article. She writes, "There's no longer anything unusual about wanting an open relationship." Now, can I just stop and do a happy dance? That, I'm sure this isn't true absolutely everywhere throughout the world, but at least in certain U.S. cities, that actually is becoming true. And that is a huge milestone for us. The fact that it's not a big deal to want an open relationship or polyamory in some circles is actually a huge milestone. So let's celebrate that win. She continues, "Many who consider themselves progressive about sex, gender, love, and relationships know this. It's just that almost nobody in an open relationship wants to be open about it. What's surprising is that so many people feel the need for secrecy. Later on, she says, according to the stereotypes, single women are desperate to lock down a man, while men are desperate to avoid commitment. There's nothing new here. Monogamy has historically been gendered. Even in situations where marrying more than one woman has been illegal, it's often been normal for men to have mistresses, but different rules have applied to women. Ugh, ain't that the fucking truth? Women who enter voluntarily into non-monogamous relationships are a direct challenge to the idea that women are, quote, naturally monogamous. They're socially penalized to maintain the status quo. A non-monogamous woman will be portrayed as debased and disgusting, a slut. While I have discussed my open relationships online, I've been called many other colorful names, she says. I believe that the romanticness of romantic love is largely socially constructed and as such malleable. We collectively write the script that determines the shape of the privileged romantic relationship style. That script has changed and will continue to change. She writes, we must get beyond this. We need to question the limits we have placed on what counts as a romantic relationship. Freedom to love, the right to choose one's own relationship without fear, shame, or secrecy, is critical, not just for individuals, but for us all collectively. But she writes, it won't be easy. If the love of a polyamorous triad is seen as romantic and hence as valuable as the love of a monogamous couple, then the triad should have the same social and legal privileges as the couple. Okay, now we're getting into the scary territory. Even just reading the excerpts, I'm really excited about this kind of thinking and the fact that this article is out here. And I'm actually looking forward to reading her book. And hey, guess I need to get off my butt and bring her on the show. Don't you guys want to hear what she has to say? I know I do. Our topic this week is from a letter from a listener who has been with her boyfriend. She met him 6 months ago. They've been going out for 4 months. She describes the relationship as healing and intense. He's very kind, honest, and she says it's the first relationship she's been in a very long time after some serious heartbreak, although she describes herself as an armchair poly person. So this is what I would call poly in principle, likes the idea, hasn't actually put it into practice yet. So she writes, I have a fear that our relationship is potentially significantly more important to me than it is to him. I've told him about this fear, and he has reassured me that, though it's likely that this relationship does hold greater significance to me because of the circumstances, he still greatly values it and considers it profound and meaningful. However, I'm also witnessing him fall more deeply in love with one of his other partners, someone who I believe may be his game changer, which is how I've been able to tell that our levels of emotional investment aren't balanced. And she insists that it's not really about jealousy. It's about whether it's wise to remain in a relationship where your partner's a game changer for you, but you're not a game changer for them. Okay. So that's a good question to ask. I think that most of us, if you've dated for any certain amount of time, have been in something like this situation. And if you've dated for a long time, you've probably been on both sides of it. You may have been with somebody that you were way more into than the person was into you. And you may have been on the other side of it, where you were only kind of into somebody who was really, really into you. So this happens from time to time. And actually, when you think about it, it's kind of unusual that any two people, let's say we're talking about 2 at a time here, would be equally invested in each other and the relationship to the exact same amount. Now, I know that when you are experiencing new relationship energy, NRE, it can very often feel that way. Like everything is so awesome and we just love each other so much and we both feel exactly the same and it's all super perfect. But after the NRE wears off, you do realize that there are varying levels. And I don't think that's all that unusual. Now, I do understand why you feel this way because you describe the relationship as healing and intense. and you say that you are still recovering from some serious heartbreak. So I don't know about you, but my rebound relationships after heartbreak, like those first 2 or 3 relationships or people I date, I'm not even sure they're all relationships after my heart gets broken, they're just doomed. They are rebound. We're going to be great friends. We're probably still going to be talking to each other 5 or 10 years from now. But those relationships, for me anyway, they ain't going to work out because I'm still healing. And the relationships may help me heal, and they may be fun for both of us, and they may even be meaningful for both of us. But I don't know about you guys, but I've never had a rebound relationship that actually turned into a full-fledged, long-term, fully functioning relationship. I know it happens sometimes, but I would let you know that this really isn't that unusual of a situation. Now, the question is, are you going to get hurt? And is the fear of getting hurt so intense that you actually want to leave the relationship? Now, since this is a rebound relationship, you're probably fairly ultra sensitive to being hurt, as anyone would be. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're asking this particular question, in addition to the fact that there does seem to be an actual disparity in the way that you feel about each other. So to me, this all comes down to, look, the same question when you're asking yourself, should I stay in any relationship? What do you need to be happy and healthy in a relationship? And are you getting that? So if you are getting the things that you need to be happy and healthy in a relationship, if you're getting love and attention and sex and family or whatever it is that you need to be happy in a relationship, then the fact that somebody else might be getting slightly more of that shouldn't really matter. And on that note, I would say that in your first poly relationship, and in most relationships, it is very difficult not to make comparisons. Is this person prettier than me? Is this other person getting more sex than me? Is this other person more in tune with him than me? There are so many things on which we can compare ourselves to our metamors, our partners with whom we are not involved. This is rarely helpful and will probably only serve to drive you absolutely insane. Look, I know it's a natural human thing that we compare our relationships to the others, but really all that should matter is whether you are happy with the relationship you have. It's kind of like, I don't know, comparing your relationship with a parent to your sibling's relationship with your parent. Well, sure, it's not unusual for one sibling to have a closer relationship with one or both parents than another one does. But all that really matters is whether you're happy with your relationship with your parents. It doesn't really matter if somebody has more than you. What matters is, are you getting what you want? If you're not getting it, well, then ask for it. If there's something that you're wanting that you're not getting, ask for it. And if you are getting what you want, and this is simply an insecurity because it's the first time you're doing poly, well, then there are ways of coping with that insecurity. If there are specific behaviors that you need that you're not getting, right? If you want more sex, or if you want more physical touch, or maybe you want more time dating, or I don't know, maybe you want more overnight. If there are specific behaviors that you're not getting, but that you do want, then I would encourage you to ask for them. But if it's simply that somebody might love him more than you do, or he might love somebody else more than he loves you, well, I would say that's probably part of life. There are probably going to be other people in this world that he loves more than you, and there are probably going to be other people in this world that he loves less than you. I would encourage you to think of them as loving differently and understanding that relationships tend to fall to their own level. If you were happy with the level of your relationship before you started comparing, then I would say stop making yourself crazy. Address the insecurity, acknowledge it out loud. You've done a wonderful thing by acknowledging it to me. Acknowledge it to yourself, acknowledge it to him, and for that matter, might even be worth the time to take it to your metamor and say, "Hi, you don't know me, but I'm really insecure about your relationship because it seems like it's so much more intense than mine. And, that scares me. Simply acknowledging that out loud, not expecting anyone else to do anything about it, but simply acknowledging that insecurity out loud can take a lot of its power away from you. And if that doesn't work, you can always try the jealousy exercise that we mentioned in last week's episode, the and then what exercise. I would refer you to episode 505 for that. And then alternatively, the discuss, distract, do method while he's out with somebody else to help yourself feel better. And whether you decide to stay in this relationship or not, because, you can listen to me all you want, but ultimately that decision is up to you, not to me. It is important to have your own coping mechanisms and your own practice of self-care. You should have a way of taking care of yourself when you're feeling blue or when you're feeling insecure. And whatever that coping mechanism is, for me, when I'm feeling insecure, I tend to spend time with my cat. I tend to text with my friends. And sometimes I'll take myself out for something special, like a pedicure. I always want them. I never seem to have time to get them. And when my toes are all nice and pretty and perfect, it makes me feel better about myself. That's part of my self-care regimen. So even if the entire world's fallen apart, if everything's crappy with my job and my relationship and my home life and my family, a pedicure is part of my self-care. Whatever works for you in terms of self-care, I'd encourage you to do that. All right, I've given you 5 different things to think about. I hope that was helpful. And if it's not, or if somebody listening thinks that was absolutely terrible advice, we'd love to hear. Email polyweekly@gmail.com, call 802-505-POLY. Our feedback this week is from Sunray on episode 358, where we were talking about some type of app that could help support poly relationships. A little context, Lusty Guy and I were talking about the fact that he's really good about giving positive reinforcement and always saying thank you and doing multiple daily appreciations, both of Elle and of myself. And talking about maybe there's an app that could encourage others to get into that habit because, after hanging around them for just a couple of months, I started doing it myself because I was hearing it all the times. Great positive reinforcement. Sunray writes, Habitica is a free open source site for gamifying your life for self-improvement and organization. The metaphor they use is that of turning your life into an 8-bit RPG video game, fighting bosses, collecting outfits, cute pets, and mounts, and adventuring side by side with your party as a warrior, healer, rogue, or mage. Here's what I like best about it. The habits you try to reinforce and the daily chores you do to score in the game are completely custom built. It would be completely possible for a polycule to form their own party and create challenges for each other or themselves around relationship goals. Folks in a party let their successes and failures directly affect each other, building in accountability for their goals. I can imagine this working well for long-distance partners who like a sense of shared endeavor. Need to formalize a weekly relationship check-in? Make it a recurring to-do. Just pick the day of the week. Trying to remember to compliment your sweeties? Create a habit about it and reward yourself every time you do it. There's also a wider social component. Users can bond over shared interests and create challenges for each other in guilds. There are 2 relationship guilds I know of, the Lovers Guild for general relationship skills development and Expanded Party Polyamorous Adventurers. Okay, I'm not really into gaming per se, but I am into productivity apps and I'm really curious about this Expanded Party Polyamorous Adventurers. I might have to check this out. Sunray says the site is habitica.com and they've developed both Apple and Android apps for the game that are almost as full-featured as the desktop version, free to play, but you can subscribe for $5 a month if you want the extra perks. And we'll provide a link to that in the show notes, available at polyweekly.com, or if you have our iPhone or Android app, right there in the attached show notes. It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly Polyamorists everywhere. Our Happy Poly Moment of the Week is from H, who wrote in to say, having a shit week, politics, aren't we all? But sitting at work and thinking about my family life has me feeling better, and I thought it'd be fun to send you a note and take a break from the scary world. After months of dropping hints and blatantly stating our interest, my wife and I, both girls, have found ourselves in a closed triad agreement with a friend of ours, also a girl. This is a first for all of us, but it feels so natural and so right. It is a gorgeous feeling. Wanted to send some love to all the Leslie Poly gals and express my love for your show. Oh, H, I'm so glad you did. The lesbian triad, I love it. I wish you all kinds of love and happy polyness. And that being said, that about wraps it up for our show. Again, if you have questions, comments, or feedback, 802-505-POLY, or email us at polyweekly@gmail.com. We, as always, want to give a shout out to our monthly subscribers, our playmates, for their generous donations, helping to keep this show going week after week, month after month, year after year. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Welcome to our brand new listeners. And remember, it's not all about the sex.